Coming up on the Mindful Midlife Crisis.
The change in your voice is a change in weight. I challenge you to listen to that intro. It's not just an energy thing. It's not just that you're higher energy in that moment. Your voice is different. In the weight of what you're saying coming out of you is different.
Welcome to the Mindful Midlife Crisis, a podcast for people navigating the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. Join your hosts, Billy and Brian, a couple of average dudes who will serve as your armchair life coaches as we share our life experiences, both the good and the bad, in an effort to help us all better understand how we can enjoy and make the most of the life we have left to live in a more meaningful way. Take a deep breath, embrace the present, and journey with us through the Mindful Midlife Crisis. Welcome to the final summer session of the Mindful Midlife Crisis. I'm your host, Billy, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Brian, on the bass. Brian, how you doing over there, man?
I'm inspired today, Billy.
Inspired? What has hit you with so much inspiration today?
Life, just life in general. You know, things are going great. I'm having a lot of fun all the time, pretty much. So that's pretty cool.
I think we established in last week's episode that the both of us are crushing life, particularly you are crushing life these days.
I think we did establish that. Speaking of crushing life, our guest today is a big swinger when it comes to life.
Yes, as always, we have our favorite guest on the show to close out the summer sessions. But before we acknowledge him, because he doesn't deserve any special treatment in any way, shape, or form.
All right. You got a good point. All right.
People who do deserve special treatment from us, of course, are always our listeners. Special shout out to our listeners in Krakow, Poland. I've been to Krakow, lovely city. Frederick, Maryland. I'm not sure I know where Frederick, Maryland is. Santa Clara, California. Sartell, Minnesota, along the Mississippi River there, and Brussels, Belgium. Again, we continue to go international. We love going to international. Thank you to all of our international listeners. Thank you to all our local listeners. Thank you to all our stateside listeners as well. If you want a shout out, send us a message at mindfulmidlifecrisis@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mindful_midlife_crisis. You can also go to www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com and click on the contact page and hit us up there. We're on Twitter, not much, but we are. You can find us there at Mindful Midlife, and we're on Facebook. The Mindful Midlife Crisis podcast is where you can find us. All of this information is in the show notes and on our website. Be sure to check that out. If you do go to our website, sign up for our weekly newsletter under Contact. We send out a different mindfulness meditation each Sunday, along with information about upcoming events hosted by our amazing guests who are always seeking out opportunities to help people like you reflect, learn, and grow. I am also working on some helpful content. We talked about that in the past couple episodes, and I am sharing those resources for absolutely free. You might as well get on top of that now before I start charging the big bucks. I'm also looking for some people interested in getting some free mindfulness coaching and free daily planning coaching. So if that piques your curiosity, be sure to sign up for the newsletter at www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com and hit me up. Brian, how was the show at Torgy's in Austin this past weekend?
It was a lot of fun. It was pretty eventful, I'd have to say. We got the fire department called twice.
What? Why?
Yeah, twice. It was just a crazy series of events, man. It was really an unbelievable night. But the moral of the story is we ended up driving the crowd crazy and everyone had a lot of fun, and we're going to be back there in November.
Did you guys create a disco inferno, or what was happening? Why was the fire truck there?
No, one of the times some of the fog from the show set off one of the density detectors. The other time was we think some kids in the hall were running down and we think they pulled it the first time. We were responsible the second time, but the first time was some kids.
Speaking of Kids in the Hall, did you ever watch Kids in the Hall when you were younger?
Of course. Yes, I loved Kids in the Hall.
Oh, it was one of my favorite shows. I absolutely loved I'm Crushing Your Head. Our guest today is
classic.
currently crushing our heads.
It's all classic.
Absolutely. Hey, you've got some big dates coming up here at the Minnesota State Fair. Are you ready to rock? It's actually this week. Now, when this episode comes out, it won't be this week, but your first show is what? Friday, August 26th, correct?
August 26th, that's Gen X Jukebox. And then Gen X Jukebox travels down south the following evening. I think we're playing a big campground down there, which is a really super cool show called Camp Dells. Really neat campground with a bunch of activities for the kids. Like they have a water park at this campground. It's one of the campgrounds that has all the inflatables out in the lake. Mini golf, like anything you can thinking of want to doing while you're out camping, they have it. Then Sunday, the M80s are at Dino's at the fair. And then Gen X Jukebox closes the fair on September 5th on Labor Day.
Excellent. And just for those who don't know, the M80s is one of Brian's other bands, because I told you he plays bass in every band in the Twin Cities. If you're not a state fair person, I'm not, but I'm going to go there because I love Brian. But if you're not and you don't love Brian, that would be understandable, but you do still want to see their band play, you should go to Champs in Eden Prairie on Saturday, September 3rd from 6 to 10, mind you. Perfect. The best time frame to play a show because it's nice and early. The sun will be setting and you can get to bed at a reasonable hour. It's my favorite showtime.
And you're at the Red Rocks of Eden Prairie.
Exactly. So if you are in the mood for some Garth Brooks or CNC Music Factory, Backstreet Boys, Gin Blossoms, Nirvana, come on out. Any of those shows, high energy show that will remind you why the 90s produced the greatest and best music of all time. Our guest would like to take us up on that here later on in the episode. I guess he's got his 2 cents in that. Of course, he's wrong, but whatever. We'll let him speak his piece. Give them a follow, Gen X Jukebox, on Facebook and Instagram as well. Go get funky with Brian on the bass. I might be there cutting up a rug too. Thank you to our podcast production team over at Podcast Engineers, Dave and his team. Just crushing it week after week. We want to say thank you for editing our episodes, writing up show notes, doing our transcripts, doing the audiograms.
Thank you.
You make us look professional, guys. We really, really appreciate it. And gals, you are the best in the business. You know who else is the best in the business? Is you, the listener. And if you would like to support our show because you are so bestie, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast to this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, all you got to do is click that little plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Or if you're a Spotify user, click follow under our cover art, and that way you will never miss an episode. Also, you can go to the show notes of this episode and click on leave us a review and leave us a 5-star review. We've been getting a lot more and more of these lately. They're really, really nice. Even if you're not a regular listener and you've only listened to an episode here and there, tell us what you liked about your favorite episode. It can be as simple as, I really enjoyed episode 6 with Maurice Buchanan and Delico James from Work Gym about living a healthier lifestyle and being lane shifters and not eating like an asshole. When you do things like that and you leave us a 5-star review, not only does it help others find the show, but it also fills our hearts with happiness and joy. I do just want to take a minute here to say thank you to everyone who has donated to the show recently. Those donations really go a long way to helping us cover our production costs. Our guest today made a charitable donation to the show a while ago, and we greatly appreciate that. I want to give a long overdue thank you to Hoffman Plumbing and In-Floor Heating in my hometown of Sauk Center, Minnesota. Nick and Christy, thank you so much for your donation. We hope you're doing well. Hey, give them a follow on Facebook or check out their website at www.saukcenterplumber.com. That's www.saukcentre.plumber.com because that's how we spell things in the middle of Minnesota. We'll put that in the show notes. If you're in West Central Minnesota and you're looking for a quality plumber, give them a call. If you want to support this show with a donation, you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com/MMC podcast and leave us a few bucks to help us cover our production costs. That is also in the show notes. A little goes a long way, and if you'd like us to share a kind message or promote the good you're putting out into the world, let us know so we can support that cause. But the best way to support us as a show is to share your favorite episodes with others. be sure to tag us if you share it on Instagram at mindful_midlife_crisis. Again, if you use Twitter, tag us at Mindful Midlife. If you're a Facebook user, tag us at the Mindful Midlife Crisis Podcast. And again, be sure to follow us on social media because we're super cool and we post super cool stuff for the most part.
And we'll make you laugh or think or something.
Yeah, one of those two things, if nothing else. Or we'll make asses of ourselves and then you won't feel like you're so foolish. Yes.
Most of the time, actually.
So, Brian, not only is this the last episode of the summer sessions, but it's your last episode for a while. And it's actually going to be the show's last episode until Wednesday, October 5th, because I am going to take September off from publishing anything. I'm still going to be recording stuff, but I need to focus on closing the sale of my condo and packing up my things and selling my stuff that I'm not taking with me to Seoul and developing this new program with Jill Daler that we talked about in Summer Session 7. And I also just need some time to wrap my head around this life-changing move across the world that I'm about to make. So you and I have a lot of exciting things going on for us. And what better way to wrap up this amazing summer session than by having a chat with our best good pal, the always entertaining, the Rubenesque, the one and only guest who doesn't generate any downloads for us, Matt Hazard.
He might lose a few too, but I think it's an okay price to pay though, Matt. We love you so much.
I don't even know what you mean when you say that. I'm still waiting. You know, I download your show every week, or at least I listen to it on Spotify, and you never shout me out in Bentonville, Arkansas. Is it because the number doesn't show up?
No,
this legitimate question.
That's fair. I don't shout you out because you're on the show every season. So
you're like staff here, man. Once you step on this side of the door, don't expect any favors, buddy.
Listen, I got to tell you, I tell people in my neighborhood about your show all the time. And I tell them about the show and I tell them episodes to listen to, and then they don't ever talk to me again. So
right. I was gonna say, and we still only have one download in Bentonville, Arkansas.
No, that's not true. I do tell my neighbors about your show though, especially in the context of like, I live with a lot of people in the same age group in my neighborhood. So anywho, good to see you guys.
It's really, really good to see you.
Hey fellas, what's new? Has anything changed?
Yeah, there's a lot is going on with us, and we've shared that. What's going on with new? You were just in Kentucky here not too long ago. Tell us about that trip.
I was in Kentucky. Yeah, I was in Louisville, which, by the way, I had not expected Louisville to be such a cool city. I mean, it was beautiful, clean, great metropolitan area, a couple stadiums. There's a lot of distilleries, obviously. It's kind of the home of bourbon. That was the purpose for our visit, mine and our good pal, Pete Bourbon, as well as my good friend, Scott Jensen, who you guys, I think, have both met. Brian, I know you know him.
Of course.
Not the Scott Jensen that's running for governor.
Not that one. Okay. No, decidedly not.
We should clarify that.
No, let's not. It's that one. And I took him to Louisville and we got hammered. No, so we went there and we all caught COVID, but which, by the way, revisiting last year, I caught COVID this time last year, also on your show. I mean, we talked about it on your show, but yeah, we learned a lot about bourbon and we were in close proximity to a lot of Kentuckians. So we caught COVID.
I could see how that could happen.
But did you have a swell time?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I don't know how much you guys know about bourbon, but I got to try like some pretty incredible bourbons like Pappy's and a number of other very high-end bourbons that are really tough to get your hands on anywhere outside of that town. And even when you're in that town, you spend a lot on them. But yeah, it was a fun trip.
So what else did you like about Louisville?
We had a couple of great experiences as far as fine dining. There's a James Beard nominated restaurant called Ceviche right downtown in Louisville that we ate at. That was phenomenal. It was a Mexican restaurant.
And you were with Pete Bourbon. Pete Bourbon knows restaurants too. I mean, that's my guy. When I know, you do too, but when I need a restaurant, I call Pete Bourbon and say, where am I eating?
It was so funny that you say that because Pete Bourbon was just like, I love that I didn't plan any of this because Scott and I planned the whole trip because we were visiting We were visiting 9 distilleries, and Scott knows a ton about bourbon, did before we left, and I really didn't, and Pete really didn't either, just like, I like bourbon, sure. And then the restaurant aspect of it, Pete just kind of went along for the ride, and I picked all the restaurants. So Ceviche was my pick.
Very cool. Well, you know what? Now I'll get it from him probably. Now.
Yeah. It was delicious. And then we went to the Holly Hill Inn near Lexington, actually. There was a little bit of a hiccup there because they had a set menu, tasting menu, and you couldn't order anything else, really. So for a pickier eater, which we can get into, Billy.
I'm going to guess that Louisville probably has a lot of meat, and I would be just fine with it.
They were, yeah, actually, we went to a couple of barbecue places, too, while we were there, and it was outstanding. So, yeah, very fun trip. It was unfortunate to come back with COVID again the first week of my children going back to school. And my daughter got sick at the same time that I got home. It was not COVID, but she got strep the exact same time I came home. So it's just been a comedy of errors.
1, 2, pow, pow. It's always that way, too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like you're just dealing with one thing at a time ever.
Did you have any symptoms?
Just a little bit of congestion. And then I had like some brain fog where I was having trouble.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I had, and I'm just now getting through the cough, and it's been a month since I had it. So I'm just now getting through this cough on the other side of it. So the last time I had it in November 2020, I didn't have any symptoms. You know what's funny is when I tell my friends who live in Korea that I got COVID again, they're like, again? And I'm like, yeah, everybody in the United States has had it at least twice. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean again? What do you mean twice? Some people have had it, and some people have had it more than once. It's so funny because when I was over there, we were still wearing masks outdoors until May 1st. So just a wild culture shift, to say the least. So, but, you know, that was at the end of my trip. And let's go back to the beginning of the whole summer sessions here, because I'm going to guess that you like Louisville more than I liked Portland.
So it sounded. Yeah. I was listening to the episode and I'm like, Billy is shitting on Portland. Like, this is rough.
Like I said, there's some beautiful green spaces in Portland, and I think it's important for people to find those and just avoid downtown Portland. I think every city probably has a spot that you should avoid, and then there are spots there that you could still find, and the green spaces in Portland are absolutely beautiful, and that's what makes Portland worthwhile checking out. I don't want to scare anybody away from Portland. I just want people to know that you have to go to wherever the green spaces are and stay away from the concrete areas. I
think it's interesting that you say that, because I think that there are some like big metropolitan areas where you kind of expect it to be like that. So like, for example, if you go to New York City and you see some messed up shit, you're like, well, yeah, it's New York City though. Like,
it's New York. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost part of the charm of the city that, like, yeah, people are mean there or whatever. But you go to Portland and everyone sees Portlandia, and I love that show. And Fred Armisen takes issue with your position, Billy. But you see Portlandia, and they show a lot of kind of the suburban areas around the outskirts, I think, of Portland. And you get that impression like Portland has a small town feel, and it's not. It's a big metropolitan area. I've only been there once, but the whole keep Portland weird thing, like, that originated there. Now they say that for Austin. They stole their slogan. But I think that is indicative more of a city center than what you would expect traveling to Portland. People think like Portland's Seattle's little brother. It's not. It's a big city.
That's a good point. And maybe that ties into the conversation that we had with Mitch and Jen about Crosby. And on a very, very smaller scale, a lot of people in Minnesota know the Brainerd Lakes area and would think nothing of Crosby. But Crosby is awesome. I don't know if either of you have spent any time in Crosby, but I actually had a friend who listened to that episode just before she went to Crosby, and she said, oh man, we found so many great places to go because of that episode. And they went to like the Iron Range Grill or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but they went there and had an amazing dinner. So I feel like Crosby gets overlooked because it's in the Brainerd Lakes area of Minnesota. And this is very much a Minnesotan conversation right here, but it is overlooked and it's a beautiful spot.
Let me tell you, just for a quick reflection. So I listened to that episode semi-recently because I don't like Mitch. I try to avoid listening to him talk if possible.
Well, Jen was the star of that show.
Wow.
She was. I'm kidding, Mitch. I love you.
I find Mitch delightful. Anyway.
Yeah, I think he's a blast. I told a couple of the mountain biker guys in my neighborhood. So my neighborhood is in Bentonville, Arkansas, is one of the premier mountain bike places in the United States. Some of the best trails are within 2 or 3 miles of my house. I told them about this episode. I was like, hey, I have this old friend who Mitch is more of an acquaintance of mine. He's closer with you guys, obviously, but about mountain biking in Minnesota. And I started tell them about the episode. And I said, yeah, it's about mountain biking in Minnesota. And before I finished the sentence, they're like, Cuyuna? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's on my list. Like that's top 10 for where I'm going to hit when I travel around to do mountain biking.
Oh, really? So they knew about this in Arkansas?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I've probably told the story before. I don't know if I've told it on here, but I've run into people on the trails here, like 2-3 miles from my house. And I don't mountain bike, but I'll just like walk the trails or bike on a road bike. And I'll run into people there that are like speaking in a foreign language. And I'll be like, oh, hey, where are you from? And they're from the Netherlands. And they traveled to Bentonville, Arkansas to do the mountain bike trails here.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I didn't know that. Well, Mitch and Jen, if you're listening, it sounds like they need to go visit you, Matt Hazard, and take them out on the trails there.
I've talked to Mitch about it, actually, just online. Told him he and Spencer have to come down and I'll show them around the trails.
Do you want me to go over to their house and rough them up? Maybe, have a little firmer conversation with them?
Go pick them up in the schoolie. Bring them on down, Brian.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, that's a better idea. No, let's do that.
I like that. So you won't go mountain biking? You're not a mountain biker?
I will. I'll go. I don't own a mountain bike. I bought one when I came down here, started mountain biking. It's really not for me. It's not like I'm not an adventure seeker in that sense, but we have like 50 bike shops in town. I'll rent one and I'll kind of go the easy track to show people around some of the better trails around here. They're fun.
So you don't think I could talk you into cliff jumping or parasailing like I did in Puerto Vallarta?
Fuck no.
Really?
No.
I know. I guess that does make sense. For as long as I've known you, you're a very practical guy. You know what I mean?
Like, all right, you said 10-foot cliff. I think I've done a 10-foot diving board. I know that that's a different thing in your head, probably, because you got to get some distance. There might be. So I can wrap my head around 10 feet, but the second you're about like 15, 20, I was scared shitless when I did a 10-foot diving board. So there's no world where I do a 15 or a 20-foot cliff, let alone 30. I heard you and Dr. DeMarcus talking about it. It was like 30 feet? No. Fuck
the
that.
guy who did that was wild when he jumped from that ledge. And then Adam Winsley and I went to a different waterfall and we didn't know where the rocks were at the bottom because we couldn't see it in the waterfall. Good. So then, of course, I went first. And this was maybe a little bit higher jump. This might have been closer to 15. And I jumped. And when I hit the water, my foot just grazed a rock. And I'm like, yep, I found the bottom over here, guys.
Oh, no.
So jump a little bit closer or jump further away from the waterfall. Because
No. That's silly, man. I'm not going to go that way. You wouldn't catch me doing that shit either.
No. And then, and you said parachuting, maybe that, or like skydiving. That's a thing that you would consider. No,
I would consider it. Yeah. Now that I've done parasailing and the zip lining, man, that was something else. Because I don't like being on swings because I don't like that feeling of going down. That's what I can't handle. And when actually on the water slides, those were the worst because they were steep water slides. So you just go down a little bit and all of a sudden, boom, it'd be straight down. You're like, oh, and that feeling of your stomach going into your throat. I can't do that at all. But for some reason or another, I was like, okay, I'm with these people here and I'm just embracing this fear that I have right now of going on this zip line because it's impractical to think that it's going to break because if it did, it would have been on the news. So I should be fine. But the one thing I couldn't do is he had you go upside down one time And he's like, you can let go and just do arms spread out upside down.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I heard you talk about that.
No, I can't do that. That did not feel comfortable to me.
Yeah.
Have you guys either of you done the indoor skydiving, or would you?
I would. Well, actually, that sounds pretty dangerous too, if I'm being really honest.
It is it's deceiving. You're absolutely right. It is, because me and the boys and I went and did it a couple weeks ago, and it is very eye-opening as far as how body position affects how you fall and everything. It takes a while to get used to it, like anything. I'd equate it to riding a skateboard almost. But once you find your balance and you figure out how to move, because it's slight movements of your body that make you go forward, backwards, turn, like it's a movement of your hand that makes you go left and right. So it's really crazy, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, when you see the guys doing the tricks and stuff in there, you realize they're essentially jumping up 30 or 40 feet, and then the air's catching them maybe a few inches before they hit the grate at the bottom. So it is pretty intense. It's a lot more intense than you'd think.
Brian, you've been to Ireland a number of times. Have you ever kissed the Blarney Stone?
I did not kiss the filthy Blarney Stone, but I have been to Ireland.
So I did that, and I don't know if either of you are familiar. Billy, have you ever done that?
No, I've never been to Ireland.
Talking about being in the moment and being with the people you're with, and then just kind of like throwing caution to the wind a little bit. So kissing the Blarney Stone, people don't really talk about the fact that if you're scared of heights, that's fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah, because you're upside down and you're actually hanging off something. Can you describe it?
Yeah, so in Blarney Castle, there were the story goes that there are these two guys on a parapet, like a turret, and a cannon fire goes right in between them and blasts a hole in the tower. And they're sitting there next to it, and after the battle's over, they've held off the enemy, they've won. They hold each other up to kiss the stone for the luck that the cannon fire missed them both. And that's how this stone is lucky. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, and you won't be able to hear my description, but you've got the outside of the parapet and then the floor that they're sitting on. And the blast is like right here. And it's like 2 to 3 feet out over open air that you have to like stretch out and then kiss the stone above you.
Oh, wow. So you're like on one side and there's a gap and you have to stretch over that gap to kiss the stone.
They actually kind of slide you out. There's somebody who helps you and slides you out.
Oh, goodness. And how far is it down then? When you turn around and look, if you were to invert completely from kissing the stone, because you're up when you're kissing the stone.
Yeah, I would probably guess it's about 60 feet down.
Oh, yeah. So that's a ways.
Dead. So dead.
That's
for sure.
a ways. Yeah.
But now there is a catch there. So they have like a net below you. You would fall about 8 feet and then you'd get like pulled in from the floor below. And it's like wrought iron. So it would not feel good if you fell there either. But I looked at it, or I knew kind of the logistics of it. And I was like, no way I'm doing that. No way I'm doing that. And then we get up there and I climbed, 170 steps of these little castle steps that they built for tiny people that lived at that time. And I get up to the top and I'm like, well, I didn't climb all these fucking steps to not do this. And I'm just,
that's a lot
thousands of miles from home. And, we drove 3.5 hours to come because we're staying in Dublin. And it's like 3 hours or something to Blarney Castle. And I was like, well, if we come all this way, I'm not going to not do it, I guess. So I did it. And so I think that's probably a similar, like the peer pressure of the moment. I'm more a prisoner to that than I am my fear, I think.
Okay, I'm very impressed. Well done, Matt Hazard.
Nice.
So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we come back. We're going to continue talking to Matt Hazard about why seafood is terrible, and you should agree with that sentiment as well. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis.
Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. If you're enjoying what you've heard so far, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button. Also, giving our show a quick 5-star review with a few kind words helps us on our quest to reach the top of the podcast charts. Finally, since you can't make a mixtape for your friends and loved ones like you used to do, share this podcast with them instead. We hope our experiences resonate with others and inspire people to live their best lives. Thanks again. And now, let's take a minute to be present with our breath. If you're listening somewhere safe and quiet, close your eyes and slowly inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do that one more time. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and open your eyes. You feel better? We certainly hope so. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. We are here with our good friend, the always entertaining Matt Hazard. We're wrapping up the summer sessions in the best way we know how with one of the best people we know. Speaking of amazing people that we know, we had the opportunity to circle back around and have a conversation with Mishi Pan. And even you, Matt, said, I don't know if it'd be possible to meet her and not like her. And that's the truth.
Yeah, I've never met Mishi. Go ahead, Brian. You look like you want to talk.
No, I was agreeing. I was just like, yeah, it's spot on. That's all I was thinking.
She seems like such an awesome person, like such a bubbly personality, really kind. I love her story. The first episode with her, like I kind of teared up because I think we talked about like I had a connection with that because I was 34 and not knowing whether I was going to ever be a parent. It's something I wanted to have in my life. And she was 39, same situation, or 38, I think, when she got pregnant or something. But so I related to her a lot about that. And it was so much fun to revisit her after becoming a mom. And as much as you romanticize being a parent, Brian, you talked about it, kind of how great it is being a parent. It also, regardless of who you are, it sucks. Like
oh yeah, it's a lot of fucking work, man. It is.
It's amazing and beautiful and awesome and shitty. Like it's all of those things.
He's right. He's totally dead on.
So it was good to hear that she had that experience as well. She's having that experience as well.
It's good for her to share that too, because Mishi shits kittens and rainbows because she's just such a positive human being. But she's also very authentic and real in the sense that she's going to share what her experience is in a very true and genuine way. And that's what makes her just a beautiful human being all in all. I mean, that's why she's so fantastic. Another beautiful human being that we had an opportunity to talk to was my wonderful friend Iggy Lee from Seoul. Brian, I'm bummed that you couldn't have been there for that, just because I think you would have really enjoyed it talking to Iggy, because it didn't come off like this as much in the episode. He's so funny and willing to be out there and goofy. Like if you follow him on Instagram, he's always eating something ridiculous. And it's like, oh my God, like today he posted a video of him eating live octopus, which we can get back to, but he's doing it in the most obnoxious way where he's like holding the octopus up and then his mouth is wide open, but the camera is 4 inches away from him. So you could see the inside of his mouth. And you're like, why are you filming it like this? But then you sit down with him, we'll have a really deep conversation, philosophical conversation with you. And it struck a lot of people that I've talked to about that episode was this idea of the puzzle. And you like that too, Matt.
Oh my God, I loved it. So for the first things first, is English that man's third fucking language?
I think so, because obviously Korean would be his first.
And it'd
be his second, and then Chinese would be
Chinese
his third language, because that's why he went to China, was to learn Chinese. But, you know, that goes back to all the conversations that I've had with people. When I talk to people in Korea, 3 was the minimum. Most people, it's unbelievable.
That's why we suck, dude. That's why we suck. The expectation everywhere else in the world is that you speak 2 languages at least, and 3's better. And a lot of countries, 4 is kind of the Switzerland 4 is the norm. And it's like, holy crap, how much do we suck? That analogy about the puzzle, I think I've heard something similar. You know, it's not just psychobabble, but it is applicable, I think, across cultures. And what a beautiful analogy. Like, things don't just happen. You know, you are creating these constant puzzle pieces. And when they fit together, you feel like, oh, it just happened. No, it didn't. You put in a ton of work and they fit together that way because of the work that you did. Those pieces aren't there without the work that you've done on yourself.
And that ties into a lot what we talk about with Christine Chang about how, you know, things change over time. And when we talked to Rich Bracken in episode 59 about the Emotional Intelligence Dance Party, he talked about how he's in a 6-year overnight success. He's really starting to take off here, but it's been 6 years in the making, and it feels like an overnight success that has taken him 6 years. And I think what I liked about what Iggy said, and you kind of touched on this too, is just that it feels like that it just happened, but it didn't. You really worked to put those pieces together. And for me, that really resonated because I set up the summer sessions the way that I did because I was a mess in January. I was so all over the place in January. To come out of it 6 months later with a real clear vision of where I want to go and what I want to do, it feels empowering. And I felt powerless back in January. Like I felt, not that I felt powerless, I just felt like I was floating without any direction. That's really what it came down to.
Billy, I have to tell you, I think one of the things that was abundantly clear in that episode, the only other thing that was abundantly clear besides the fact that it feels like Iggy, like Mishy, is a person that most people, if you're going to meet this person, you're going to like him. But I felt like you had a genuine love for that man and what he gave to you.
Oh, I'm going to get emotional. I love Iggy. I love him.
Yeah.
I love Iggy, and I love Ernie, who was my Airbnb host. I built such a connection with the people that I met in Seoul. That's why I want to go back there. Like,
that's so awesome.
That's who I want to be around here for this indefinite future, because it's all due to Iggy. It's all due to Iggy that the majority of the people that I met was because of that connection to Iggy and because he had created that Soul Walker group. So yes, I genuinely love Iggy for creating this experience and for introducing me to people who I truly believe are going to have a significantly positive impact on my life for the unforeseeable future.
Yeah, that really came through. He did a motivational video that I watch from time to time. You've touched on it on the show a number of times. And it is like, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I know you've talked about how Brian says if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. It's about your growth as a human being as well. It's not just about success. It's about you finding the best version of yourself. You need to be around people who are providing that good soil for you. If a plant isn't growing right, you don't throw out the plant.
I do, only because I just don't know what to do. But continue your thought.
Yeah. Well, the things you can try, Brian, are replacing the soil, adding water, getting more sunlight. And those things are the people that you keep around you in your life. You're not going to put toxicity in the soil around a plant and expect it to grow. The people who come to your life, you have to sort through that. There are some people you're never going to be able to get rid of. There are some people that are associated to you via family or whatever. But some of those people you have to say, all right, you're my family. I'm going to love you forever. But you're going to be at this arm's distance. And I'm going to keep a closer circle to me of people who are in my corner and who are going to foster that growth for me.
Well, and that's why I feel like I've knocked it out of the park with working with Jill Daylor, because we've known each other for going on 25 years. And I'm sure if Jill was here, she'd say, first 5 of those years, she'd be like, you are the most obnoxious human being on earth.
In the best way.
Yeah, I guess in the best way. I was rolling with her brother-in-law, who is one of my best friends, that kind of thing. So, we were in our early 20s being jackasses, that kind of thing. That's just how we did it. But it feels validating, I guess, affirming that 25 years later, we're both kind of in the same place. And she wants to work with me. I have always held Jill in the highest regard, actually, just in that group of friends. If Dr. Michael Collins, if you are listening to this, he will attest to this too. And my friend Justin in Ohio, he will attest to this too. We've always looked to Jill as just being such a respected human being. So for me to even be allowed to work with her and her to want that, it feels so empowering to do that. So I'm really excited that she wants to do that. And it's funny, we meet every Monday and Thursday. So we met today. We're recording on a Monday. We met today and we're going back and forth and challenging each other just on like words that we're putting on our landing page for this program. And it's like, I don't like inspirational. I like intentional. She's like, well, I don't care. I'm going to use inspirational. So then we talk about, look up the definition for inspirational. Let's find out if we're using the right word. But it's these ticky-tacky things that we're doing because we're so committed to making sure that this program is complete and worthwhile and helps people find a more purpose-filled life through reflection and self-awareness. And I haven't been this excited for a project in such a long time. Like, I love doing this podcast, and this podcast is going to be something that I continue doing because I have a deep passion for doing this. But that work is exciting and exhilarating and fulfilling. I don't remember the last time that I was doing work that was fulfilling. It's been a long time since I was doing anything that really filled my soul and revved my engine in that way.
That's so awesome. I think the observation I had about the last episode, you have these lovely little clips at the beginning now where usually it's your guest's voice. And then you come in with, welcome to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. And this time it was your voice. And then it goes to this pre-recorded, welcome to the Mindful Midlife. And the change in your voice is a change in weight. I challenge you to listen to that intro. It's not just an energy thing. It's not just that you're higher energy in that moment. Your voice is different. In the weight of what you're saying coming out of you is different. I can see it. I can see it.
I've heard
when
it
I'm
too.
talking.
I know exactly what he's talking about, and he's right on. But you're incredibly perceptive, Matt Hazard, because you're right.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I can feel it. I can literally feel it in my body, especially when I think back to sitting up in my niece's bedroom, trying to figure out which direction I want to go, or just taking on too much and trying to do too much back in January and not having any real clear direction. And I really feel like that Carrie Schweer episode we did with not only just Question the Drink, but then when she talked about gray area living, that kind of cleared some things up for me. But then also that conversation that I had, the one-on-one that I had with Brian Gallagher, where he's just like, you need to get clear on what it is that you want to do. And that was back in February when I had that conversation. It was 4 months later before I found clarity. And that clarity didn't come until the last 2 weeks that I was in Korea. And it hit me like a tidal wave. I mean, it had been building up, all these things that I've been learning about myself. And then I woke up one day and I just said, why am I putting so much energy and time into people and experiences that are not reciprocating that same energy back to me? This is a complete and utter waste of time. And so then I invested those last 2 weeks into people that I met in Korea and Jill so that I could just feel whole again. And not only did I feel whole, I felt rejuvenated. I felt energized. And I'll tell this story because we brought up Pete Bervin. I was thinking about that episode that we did with Rich Brackett, and he talked about the power of music. So I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to curate this good mood playlist on Spotify. So I'm doing that, and I texted Pete Bourbon and said, hey, can you send me a Brute Squad set list? And for those of you that don't know, Brute Squad is the band that Pete Bourbon, our friend, Matt Hazard, and Brian on the bass, they were all in this band together with Zeb, who's a loyal listener, and Spencer, who shreds on guitar, as does Zeb. But anywho, I used to go to those shows all the time, and I used to get on stage and do rap battles with them, and it was awesome. I always had so much fun, and one of my favorite birthdays was 2013. It was my favorite birthday of all time, and those shows just brought back a lot of happiness. So I asked Pete Bourbon, hey, can you send me a set list from those shows that you used to do back in the day? Because I'm feeling kind of down. And as I was typing that, Billy Joel's Uptown Girl was playing because that was on my good mood set list. I just started bawling because I had finally admitted to somebody that I was not in a good place mentally and emotionally, and I was kind of putting up this front, and I hit send, and then I just went into the bedroom and sobbed for about 10 or 15 minutes, uncontrollably, like convulsing, shaking, sobbing, because I kept asking myself over and over again, why can you not be happy? Why are you not happy? What is your problem? Why are you not happy? That next day, though, when I woke up, when it hit me, like, you're not happy because you're investing so much time and energy into people who do not reciprocate this time and energy back to you. Stop doing that and start investing time and energy into people who do. And that's when I started spending more time with the people from the hiking group and reaching out to them and saying, hey, do you want to hang out, or let's hang out? And then weirdly enough, they started messaging me. I didn't even have to go to them. It was like once I decided to stop investing in people that weren't investing back in me, then all of a sudden it cleared out all that energy or whatever. And that sounds really woo-woo, but I'm getting
Kristen
these
Brown.
messages. Yeah. I started getting these messages like, hey, let's get together. And it was outside of the group. And it just was so refreshing. And I have been riding that high since that time.
I'm super happy for you. I have a second theory. It's that your taste buds suck and seafood's really good and you're an idiot.
Well, I think that might be a good way to close out the show. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we can talk about why maybe I need to eat more seafood and that would bring more joy into my life. Matt Hazard also has an issue with the fact that Brian and I think the 90s music is the best music of all time. He seems to have an opinion on that. We'll dismiss that like we dismiss most of his opinions, except for the good ones. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis.
Thanks for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. We will do our best to put out new content every Wednesday to help get you over the midweek hump. If you'd like to contact us, or if you have suggestions about what you'd like us to discuss, feel free to email us at mindfulmidlifecrisis@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mindful_midlife_crisis. Check out the show notes for links to the articles and resources we reference throughout the show. Oh, and don't forget to show yourself some love every now and then, too. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. We are closing out our summer sessions with our good friend, Matt Hazard. Matt has taken issue with the fact that I do not like seafood. You have tried abalone, whatever it is.
Abalone.
All right.
Many times.
Okay. It wasn't good enough for me to even remember its name. So what is your issue with my issue of seafood?
So abalone is kind of a unique shellfish. It's not that different from oysters, though, in terms of like on the half shell or anything like that. The preparation is important, of course, but like with any other protein, if it's cooked well, it's going to be good. And if you get it fresh out of the sea, it's going to be good. There is something broken inside of you, sir. Shellfish is amazing. Fish is amazing.
I just covered that I fixed that. I just covered that I fixed whatever was broken inside of me.
Well, this is the next thing. Fix this next.
Okay. As a seafood lover yourself, you would have loved Jeju Island because that's all you could find on Jeju Island. And I will say this, I do owe it to the Hainyo these sea women that live there to at least try some abalone right off of the shore there, because these women are incredible because they can hold their breath for anywhere between 5 to 6 minutes. And they're diving for these abalone and preparing them on the shore for you to eat. So I owe it to them to at least try the fresh abalone.
Billy, so you're moving to South Korea, yeah? Like for a time?
Indefinitely, yes.
Yeah. So I've never been, but as I understand it, it's kind of a peninsula, right? Like it's got ocean just all the way around that sucker.
That's accurate.
And there's going to be a lot of seafood, bro. Like that's just...
I know, but they also have a lot of Korean barbecue there. And so I was able to get away with it. They have the stew there, the kimchi stew. Oh my gosh. It's unbelievable. And they have this thing called a budae jjigae, which is army stew. And army stew has Spam in it. Oh my God. It's my favorite meal in Korea. Now, I told some people that, and they're like, oh, yes. They're like, yes, army stew. That actually has a really sad history here in Korea. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop telling people that's my favorite dish.
Don't tell me this story. For the record, I love Spam. There's a lot of people who hate Spam. It's good. Like
it's salty and delicious.
Delicious. You fry it. Spam's great. Anyway, Korean barbecue, awesome. You're going to be able to get away with it. The thing is, like, if I'm moving to Maine and you're like, yeah, but you hate lobsters, and I'll be like, well, yeah, they got Mexican and barbecue joints there too, though. Like, it's like, well, that's not what they're famous for, dude. I guess Korean barbecue is kind of what they're famous for.
Right. And kimchi is what they're famous for. But yeah. So I'm going back to this video that Iggy posted on his Instagram. And if anybody wants to watch Iggy eat octopus, you can go to IggyLee21 on Instagram and watch him close camera eat live octopus. He shows a video of the octopus squirming around on his plate. No. Just no. And I also looked that up because my friend Rich and EK told me, oh, you need to try, I think it's called sadokto, or so. I keep messing up the pronunciation of it. And so I'm like, well, what's that? And they said, don't Google it. Just eat it when you're in Jeju and Busan. I'm like, no, I don't like that. So then I did Google it, and it's live octopus, and it says in Wikipedia, it says this, that you need to make sure that you chew it completely, because if you don't, it will suction to your throat and could create a choking hazard that could kill you. What? No, there's no way I am eating something that can attach to my throat. I also, when walking in Busan, there was a street market there, and they have the live eels swimming around. And if you want one of those, they just grab it and they cut it right in front of you and skin it right in front of you. And the blood is dripping everywhere. Then they just cut it up and the thing is still slithering. Why? Oh, let me ask you this, Matt Hazard.
That'd be fresh. That would be real fresh.
Mr. Risk Aversion.
Fresh.
Would you eat that?
The eel?
Yeah.
I would take it home and cook it and eat it. Sure. I wouldn't eat it raw.
No, that's not what's going on here. That's not what's going on.
So to clarify, the octopus dish, so I've seen a dish where they take a live octopus, they chop it like the moment that you're about to eat it, and then they put like a preparation on top of it and you're supposed to eat that. That I would do while it's still moving. I don't think I would eat like just a live living thing. You have to murder it first before I'll.
Yeah, I mean that's the line for you. That's
PETA okay. Just tuned out to this whole episode right here. I'll make a deal with you. If you come parasailing with me in Mexico, I will eat live octopus with you.
Sure, let's do it.
Y'all, I'll run the camera.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a much more adventurous eater than I am an adventurous human being. But there's a few things I wouldn't eat. Like, first of all, it's a weird thing. I don't really like green olives. I'll eat them, but I don't like them. that whole pufferfish thing where they're like, you got the...
Oh, yeah. If they butcher it wrong, it's toxic.
Yeah. But if they butcher it right, you get like a little bit of a high and your tongue goes numb and it's kind of
unbelievable.
Supposed to be incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
But do you hear all these things that can go wrong with seafood? There's so many things that can go wrong by eating seafood. I've never really worried about eating something that is meat or a vegetable or a fruit. There's nothing that...
Have you never heard of like salmonella or like...
Oh, come on now. That's a preparation thing, though. That's a preparation thing.
It is a preparation thing for seafood, too.
I'm prepared to never eat it. So how about that?
Okay. Well, you are missing great things. My daughter's favorite food is sushi, by the way. My 6-year-old daughter's.
Wow, that's crazy. Let's pick this other bone then quick.
Okay. Yeah, we can close picking this bone.
Okay, let us move on to the next bone.
So first, let me clarify. 90s music is great. I love 90s music. I agree with Brian's assessment that it is the last great decade of music.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That said, I am 42 years old, and my formative years were in the 90s. So that's why I love that music. I also love 80s music. I really love 70s and 60s music.
As we all do.
Yeah, I think for me, those are my favorite era. That's my favorite era of music. I think that the majority of people, like your favorite SNL cast, your favorite cast of Saturday Night Live, is the one that you listened to or watched from the time you were 15 to 30. And now when you watch it, you're like, I don't get it. These people suck. Same with the music. I don't get it. Machine Gun Kelly's dumb. Of course he is. I'm 42 years old. It's not for me.
Yeah,
Taylor Swift is not for me.
It's not made for you.
So young people would probably have a really reasonable bone to pick with us saying that the 90s are the last great decade of music. They would be like, you are old and you suck. And we would say, that's fair.
I would say that. I would say you are wrong and you are dumb.
And I have actually evidence.
Then, Billy, you have some more self-reflection to do. Let me clarify something for you. When you're talking about musicians, you are talking about people who generally appreciate music and reach back. So somebody totally stands to reason, somebody who's in their formative years learning guitar, learning keys, is going to go back to like, oh, I'm going to hear what Eddie Vedder, what Kurt Cobain was doing.
Yeah.
And similarly, you and I, children of that era, love 60s and 70s music because...
You're spot on. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, if I had to pick a best decade of music, see, that's tough. But I'd say 65 to 75 might be because I love the old soul and stuff like that. And that was just, the best.
That's my jam. But I love 90s music.
Me too.
I don't like how you betrayed the whole message that we say at the beginning here. So, Brian, you're fired. So,
okay, I'm done. I'll see you later. Thanks a lot. Thanks for playing.
Brian is no longer allowed in the show. And you know what? Neither are you, Matt Hazard. You're out of here, too.
How dare you?
Hey, wait a minute. I'm officially a guest. That means you got to treat me better again.
well, we just might not have you back on as a guest.
And miss this magic, Billy. All of the three of us just waxing poetic about nothing for an hour.
Yes, and this really has been magic for 5.5 seasons. We have created beautiful magic together, and I could not be happier than I am right now. Just in this moment, be sitting here with the three of us and chatting and just being guys and being friends and being buds and connecting and sharing on a deeper level, which I wish guys would do a little bit more often, is just kind of share on a deeper level. And I appreciate that we get to do it together. So thank you guys. I love you very much.
Billy, I just want to say thank you so much for having me back here so many times, being an idiot, having all of the technical issues that I've had, although we finally figured it out on the last one. So thank you so much for having me back for all of these. I've really enjoyed these conversations. I am like Brian. If you want to just keep going with this dynamic for season recaps and have both of us back, I would love to do that. If not, I'm always available, man. Whenever you want to have me.
Me too. I love you both and don't need any sort of excuse to get together with either of you. So
I agree. And I feel like it's going to be important, especially on my end, to make sure that I coordinate time while I'm in a different country in a completely different time zone to make sure that I reconnect with you guys, because, you know, as much as I love the people and the friends that I made in Korea, you guys are very much a key component to the love and the happiness that I feel here as well. And so I never want to take that for granted.
Thanks, buddy. Love you.
Love you all. Hey, we're going to take a month-long break here through September so I can get my life in order. And then I am going to come back in October and take over the show and do it solo. You will not want to miss the first guest of season 6. It is a big name in the podcast community. Be sure to check that out. Thank you all for listening. Can't wait to check in with you again in season 6. October 5th is that release date. Brian, Matt, I love you both very much. Thank you.
Love you, buddy.
love you too, pal.
So for Matt, for Brian, this is Billy. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. May you feel happy, healthy, and loved. Take care, friend.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Mindful Midlife Crisis podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with your family and friends. We will do our best to put out new content every Wednesday to get you over the midweek hump. If you want episodes to be downloaded automatically to your phone each week, all you need to do is hit the checkmark, subscribe, like, or follow button, depending on what podcast format you're using. While you're at it, feel free to leave our show a quick 5-star review with a few kind words so more people like you can easily find our show. If you're really enjoying the show and you want to help us out, feel free to make a donation to www.buymeacoffee.com/MMC podcast. That's www.buymeacoffee.com/MMC podcast. You can also access the link in our show notes. We use the money from these donations to pay whatever expenses we incur from producing the show, but ultimately, we record this show for you. So if you keep listening, we'll keep recording and releasing new episodes each week regardless. If you'd like to contact us, or if you have suggestions about what you'd like us to discuss on future episodes, feel free to email us at mindfulmidlifecrisis@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mindful_midlife_crisis. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to the articles and resources we reference throughout the show. Thanks again for listening. May you feel happy, healthy, and loved.